Okay, so we're going to try this. Let's see. Okay. Why? Oh. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Okay, guys.
All right, we are back on the record on case number 2317423DM. Plaintiff rested before we went off the record for lunch, and I'll turn it back over to Ms. Schmelzer to call your next witness, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to call my client, Kevin Kloosterfrick.
You 1 second. All right, sir, if you raise your right hand, please. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Kloosterman, can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Kevin Kloosterman, Kevinkloosterman.
And you're the defendant and counter plaintiff in this matter, is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you share children with the plaintiff, Mrs. Jennifer Kloosterman?
Yes, I do.
What are their names and ages?
Calvin is 15, Callie is 13, and Kelsey is 10.
And you and Mrs. Kloosterman are also married, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. When did you marry?
August 19th, 2006.
When you and Mrs. Kloosterman, were you both working, or was one of you a stay-at-home parent? How did that work?
We were both working.
What types of jobs did each of you work at the time the children, well, I guess at the time Kelvin, your oldest, was born?
At that time, Jen was working at TC Christian. I worked at UPS and had Kloosterman Outdoor.
What were your respective work schedules?
At UPS, I started anywhere from 3 to 4 in the morning and worked till 9 a.m. And I worked as a preloader, just loading trucks. And that's how I got my health insurance at the time. And Jen was working at TC Christian, probably 8 to 3. She was the athletic director over there. So there were a lot of evenings that she was gone to.
And so after Calvin was born, how did those work schedules, was that what the work schedules were?
Yeah, I worked until 9, would come home, or Jen would even sometimes take Calvin to school, and I would pick him up there and have him for the day. Some days my mom would help out. Some days we had other friends help out so that I could work. Otherwise, I was home during the day with him, and as soon as Jen got home, that would be when I would go mow and do my lawn care stuff.
How long after Calvin was born did Mrs. Kloosterman return to work?
Maybe 3 months. That's pretty, it was pretty, whatever the standard time.
I apologize. I'm gonna kick my dog out of the office because so give me 1 second here and he's gonna give me trouble. Come on, Charlie. Yep.
What do you think she had to do for that dog? Oh, that dog didn't come from him? Okay. Anyways, I'm going to probably be pretty minimal in terms of commenting because, as you can see, I've got to go back and forth between the programs. I want to switch this while I'm here. Will it let me? I don't know if it'll let me. We'll see. We'll see how that works. I'm going to mute myself again and go back to the clip.
I mean, I don't know. You can't testify too. Mother just popped off. Sorry, he was good all morning and he wants to be part of the conversation, so I apologize. He's gone now. How did you share childcare responsibilities at that time?
We divided and conquered, and Kelvin went to a lot of sporting events or school with Jen, or I stayed home with them. We worked well as a team and did what we had to do. And I would, as soon as Jen was done with work, I would work until dark so I could get as much done, and we did what had to be done.
Who was kind of responsible for, feeding, diapering, bathing, nighttime routines, morning routines?
Both of us.
And then you had another child.
Mhm.
How did your work schedules change or stay the same?
I forget when Jen went back to Sutton's Bay. I think there was a time she went to Kingsley. I forget the order of where she worked. It was difficult. It was very difficult. But it stayed the same. We did get help from my mom. Jen's mom was willing to help when she could. We had a friend that would help take a day. Again, we just did what needed to be done, and we divide and conquer and work together.
Was there ever a period of time more than, I guess, the standard 3 months after a child's birth? Was there ever a period of time that either one of you took time off work to raise children?
No. Jen, of course, home during the summertime, so that helps. But in the wintertime, I'm home a lot. Unless it snows, I'm home. Something with plowing is I kind of try to get to 30 plows. So that pretty much means I work 30 days from, say, November 15th to end of March. So that's a lot of time I'm at home. I mean, there can be times where it snows multiple days in a row and whatnot. And it can be more than 30 days. One year it was 48. But it's typically in the middle of the night. So I was with the kids during the day at home and working all night.
And so if you were home with the kids during the day, were you taking care of feeding them?
Yes.
Diapering?
Yes.
All
Playing
that,
with them.
playing
all
with
that
them.
stuff. Yes. I loved that time with them.
Did you leave?
I did.
Okay, when was that?
Maybe 2009 or 8, 9. Yeah, it wasn't too long after. I bet it was 2009.
And is that when you sort of more so focused on Kloosterman outdoor landscaping and snow plowing?
Yes, and I also didn't need the healthcare anymore. Being married to Jen, she provided the healthcare.
And then you had a third child.
Yep.
How did that change the dynamics or stay the same as far as childcare, working, things like that?
I kind of felt like going from 1 to 2 was a big deal, but going from 2 to 3 wasn't a big deal. Same sort of thing. We did what had to be done. Kelsey was also born in June, so that Jen was home right off the bat for a few months before she did go back to school in the fall. That first fall was crazy. Our family does a lot for us and helps. So
and you were staying at home with the kids during the day.
Yes.
At that point in time, while Miss Kloosterman went to work.
Yes, as much as possible.
Would you say that was more than 2 or 3 days a week?
Yes.
Okay. And all 3 children were in your care at that time?
Calvin started to go to. Calvin would have been going to like preschool, and he went up. I forget what year it was or whatever, but he started to go. Jen was at Sutton's Bay at that point, and he started to go to preschool and stuff like that. So he went with Jen to school.
And then you had the girls.
I had the girls, yes.
And all through that period of time, no problems as far as Mrs. Kloosterman being concerned or expressing concern that you shouldn't be alone with these kids.
No, absolutely not.
Was she participating in that decision that that's kind of how you guys were doing the child rearing at that point?
Yeah, we thought it was great. I mean, we loved that Jen was a teacher and was able to have her summers off. My schedule was great in the winter for being able to stay home with them. I mean, it got crazy at times. There were days I didn't sleep because obviously I'm not going to go to sleep when my kids are awake. And there would be times my mom or whatever would come over so I could sleep for a few hours. It happened. If it was snowing multiple days in a row or whatever. But again, and Jen would be home by 3-4 o'clock in those days, and we made it work. We were a great team doing that.
And as the kids kind of got older, started going to school, how did the schedules or the responsibilities of child rearing change?
When they were young, they went to Sutton's Bay. We'd get them up and get them going, and all three of them left to go to school with Jen.
Is that because she was working?
They went with Jen because she worked there, and that was easiest at the time, and that allowed me to work more. But if I went to all their things at school and whatnot, just because they were up in Sutton's Bay didn't mean I didn't do anything or whatnot. But I was still involved and went to all their stuff.
What kind of stuff did you go to?
Their plays, their singing events, their sporting events. I went on a bus trip with Callie in those days to the State Theater, or the theater downtown to see what's that Christmas movie with Tom Hanks in the train? I don't know, whatever that. I don't remember that.
The Polar Express.
Yeah, the Polar Express. That's what it is. And did those things, and was very much involved in their lives.
And when did the kids stop going to Sutton's Bay?
Kelvin stopped going to Sutton's Bay after 5th grade. He was playing hockey at that point and other sports and wanted to go to school with his friends. And so we moved him over to Traverse City East so that he could start going to Traverse City schools and go to school with his friends.
Was that a mutual decision that you and Mrs. Kloosterman made together?
Yes, it was.
And then at that time, were the two girls still going to Sutton's Bay?
Yes, the two girls were going to Sutton's Bay. They would leave with Jen, and I brought Kelvin to school every day, picked Kelvin up from school every day, and we made it work. I worked during the day, would leave work to go pick him up. I would go home with him until Jen got home at 4:30, whatever time it was, and then I would go work more, unless the kids had something up. I never missed their events.
And so getting Kelvin to school and picking him up every day, did you make sure he had meals or snacks when he got home, homework stuff?
Yep. At that time, I mean, Jen made most of the lunches. That was just something she did. But when he got home, I fed him, played with him. I mean, I loved that time with kids. And
then did there come a time that your two daughters stopped going to Sutton's Bay as well?
Yes, the next year, we moved them. Jen wasn't happy with some things that were going on at Sutton's Bay. Kelsey was falling behind at Sutton's Bay. It kind of hurt Kelsey being Jen's daughter at Sutton's Bay. I think she became like the teacher's helper rather than like the student in those days. Not that Jen was the teacher, but she kind of filled that role, and she kind of fell behind, and we made the decision to move them to Eastern, and that was a great move.
And was that a mutual decision? You and Mrs. Kloosterman talked about it and made that decision together?
Yes, we made that decision together. And even when Kelsey went to Eastern, they realized pretty quickly over there that she had fallen behind, and I was involved in those meetings. That was about the time of COVID, so we run meetings over Zoom with Eastern and people at Eastern. I know Jen said yesterday I've never been a part of any of that, but that's just not true. I was on those Zoom meetings to be involved.
Do you take an interest in your children's education?
Absolutely. I get emails every week of their progress reports and how they're doing. those kids make me very proud. They do very well in school. I make sure to text them and call them and tell them I'm very proud of them. If for some reason the grades slip, I ask them what happened. With getting grades every week, it's normally just a missing assignment. So they're able to do that assignment and get those grades back up. But yeah, I'm very involved in their school, and I want them to do well. And I'm very proud of them.
Prior to the separation, I know we're talking about a span of 14, almost 15 years now. But in general, how did the childcare duties, how'd they go? Who did what?
Jen made most of the lunches because that's just what the way that it went. All those years we divided and conquered, and we found a way to make it happen. There were things that she did. There were things that I did. I was bringing Kelvin to school. I brought Kelvin to school all 3 years that he was in East. I've brought Callie to school every year that she's been at East, other than now during Jen's parenting time. Jen takes her. I would come back and get Kelsey. Kelvin walks to school by himself. I would come back and take Kelsey to school. We'd bike. We live near Eastern, so I would bike her over to Eastern, do our cool handshake, that fist bump that we do every single time. The kids come home from school. We make sure that they're fed. Yes, Jen does a lot of the homework stuff, but she's the teacher. That's a huge advantage for our kids that she's in that world. So yeah, I'm going to take advantage of that because she's awesome with that. And while she's doing that, we have 3 kids that are in sports nonstop. I take those kids to their events. I sit at practice. We do what it takes. In the wintertime when I'm home, I spend the day cleaning the house. I did all the laundry. I wasn't always great with folding up the girls' stuff because I didn't know whose was whose. Jen likes her stuff a certain way, so I didn't always do her stuff, but I always did my stuff, always did Calvin's stuff. I tried to have dinner ready, a lot of crock pot stuff. We ate out a lot. That's no secret. We spent too much money doing that, but when kids are running all over for practice, sometimes that's easier, but we were.
What about doctor and dentist appointments and that type of medical care? Who did that?
Probably 75% Jen. Again, she's home with them in the summertime. We tried to make those appointments not miss school, so it would be after school hours, days off, whatever. But I definitely brought them to dentist appointments. I take them to orthodontist appointments. I've taken them to. Kelvin hurt his knee a couple years ago playing hockey, and I took him to those appointments. Typically, if it's during the day in school, I pick them up from school and take them to those appointments.
With 3 kids, was there a logistical issue if one had to go to an appointment and what happened with the other 2? How'd you guys navigate that?
If one of them had to go to the appointment, Jen most of the time took him to the appointment because she wanted to. She's great with that stuff. I stayed with the other 2. I did a lot of driving to get kids to practices because that's just that was my role at the time.
But beyond the simple logistics of taking a child to an appointment, if your children needed medical care or a decision needed to be made, are those things that you and Mrs. Klisterman discussed amongst one another?
Yes, absolutely.
Did you make medical decisions together?
Yes.
You know, if one of you took the child to an appointment, did you give the other one an update and talk about it?
Yes, we communicated well and a lot.
And realistically, how possible was it with 3 children and one had to be one where and one had to be somewhere else? How could you and Mrs. Klisterman have been together at any one thing?
It was almost impossible.
So did you kind of together make those decisions? I'm going to go here, you're going to go there.
Yes.
What about getting the kids involved in extracurricular activities? You've heard that all of your kids are involved in a lot of different sports. How did that come to be? Who made those decisions?
We both did. Jen and I were both athletes growing up. We both love sports very much. It's a big part of our lives. When we first had Calvin, Jen and I were both playing softball together on a co-ed team. So the kids just naturally fell in love with it. So as soon as he wanted to play, it started with him and playing t-ball, and I coached that team. He was playing some soccer, some football, and then one of his friends from Sutton's Bay said, "Hey, you should come try hockey." Neither Jen and I had ever played hockey. It was like the one sport we didn't play. And he fell in love with it, and he was good at it. He was very good at it.
And if maybe, I guess, who enrolled the children in these extracurricular activities? Was that joint or was that one of you?
We both did. Jen probably did a little bit more because she liked to be involved with the team mom or the team manager. But I definitely did my fair share.
Like, for example, if one of you filled out the paperwork, was the other one completely unaware and absent in the process?
No, we were in it together. We did it together.
Shared sports schedules, practice schedules, was that an ongoing dialogue in your home?
Yeah, because it's a lot. It's a lot.
What about taking care of getting the kids the equipment and clothing they need for these sports? How did that work?
We both did it. It's extremely expensive, like extremely expensive. Jen may have taken the kids to buy some of the stuff for certain sports. I did a lot too. I feel like I paid for most of it. And that's why I had to work hard. That stuff's expensive. Hockey sticks are $300. There was a weekend a couple of years ago, Calvin broke 2 of them in one weekend, and it's like there goes $600.
Sorry, I couldn't let that go on for another minute without interrupting him and saying, you guys were married. You didn't just specifically pay for them. You both worked. She was a teacher. You might have made more money than her, but the finances were combined. And especially with everything that she described that she did, she more than made up for the financial aspect being uneven, if it were. That just drives me crazy. You did not pay for the sports. You did not, financially support the family on your own. It was a marriage. Y'all mutually supported each other, I would hope. So, yeah, that just really burned my biscuits right there.
Last year with hockey, it took its toll.
Why did hockey take its toll last year? What was going on?
both kids were playing travel. Because after Calvin fell in love with the sport, you know, you become friends with all those families, and all the siblings are at the rink. So all of a sudden, like, the girls are playing on a team. So she just fell in love with it, and she's a fantastic player also. And so all of a sudden you're just going, obviously there's not too many like local girls teams, so the girls just naturally travel. And Calvin played house hockey, which means he stayed in Traverse City for the most part, and played local teams. And then he made the travel team. And
what about the travel team? What kind of obligations or requirements are involved that are different than, you said, a house team?
Well, the house team, there's only a couple travel. You might go to 2 tournaments, and it might be like an overnight in Cadillac, or Gaylord or something like that. With travel, it's Grand Rapids, it's Detroit, it's Chicago, it's Denver, Colorado, it's Florida. It's a lot.
About how old were your kids when they started getting into this travel hockey?
Kelvin's 15. I bet he was 10 or 11.
And was that a decision you and Mrs. Kloosterman made together?
We did. We made it together.
And did you both openly talk about and discuss the additional financial as well as time and travel obligations involved in that?
Yeah, we will do anything for our kids.
Did you talk about that, having 3 children and one needing to travel, how that was going to work logistically before you went ahead and pursued travel hockey?
Yeah, we did. I mean, it was a big commitment. Probably, I felt like it was a big commitment more for the girls than Jen and I. I mean, we got to be with their friends, but the girls just kind of got drug along for a while. But to be honest, their best friends are, you know, people that they met through hockey. And it was like doable until like the first couple of years of travel were not so bad. I mean, it was more Grand Rapids. It was more like the Sioux. It wasn't crazy. And then Callie started playing travel, and that took its toll on us, because it's a lot financially. And then last year, last year was brutal. We probably spent $25,000 on travel hockey. We knew going in it was going to be a struggle. But it was, so Kelvin has now aged out of travel hockey unless he moves away and doesn't want to play other sports. It's kind of just weird nature of hockey. So we knew it was going to be over after last year. He was on a really good team, So the coach and the team, we went all in, and I mean, we won the state title. They did some fun trips. They went and played in Fort Lauderdale. Jen and I didn't go on that trip. Fortunately, he was able to go with my parents, because my parents, our family has a place, you know, it was like 45 minutes away from where he was playing. So it worked out really well. And then we won the state title. And then at spring break, we went to nationals, and that was out in Colorado, but it was a lot financially. It strained us big time.
If I understand it, you said Kelvin started playing around that travel hockey around 10 or 11 years old. He's 15 now. So is it fair to say 3 to 4 years seasons that you guys were doing all this travel?
He played, I think 4 years of travel.
And were there times that you traveled alone with him without the girls or Mrs. Kloosterman?
Yes, quite often. A lot of it, I would travel a lot with him when the weather was still good. I knew it wasn't going to snow. And then after that, I would go if I could. If it was snowing, I had to stay home. And then when Callie started playing, we were both going no matter what. And we loved it. I mean, we absolutely loved it. I know it sounds like I'm making it sound like it was a lot, and I didn't love it, but I loved every minute of it. I just love watching my kids play.
As far as, the times that you were traveling alone without Mrs. Kloosterman, what was was there a logistical reason, like other kids had to be other places or things like that?
Yeah, other kids had to be other places or whatever. It's just, sometimes it's nice to let the girls not have to travel every weekend or live out of a hotel. So there'd be a lot of times that just Calvin and I would go. There'd be times that I would stay home with the girls and Jen and Calvin would go.
How often would you say that you guys kind of separated and one of you traveled and the other didn't?
For the first couple of years, we tried to go as a family as much as we could until there were times where I knew it was going to snow and I'd have to stay home. And even when it snowed, I would get done working and usually meet up with them because I hated to miss the games.
If you had to put a percentage, how often did you guys sort of separate versus like all go as a family?
Well, the last 2 years, Callie played travel also, so we were both going. One was, so if Callie had home games, Calvin was normally away. It wasn't very often that we were both home. One of us would be with Calvin, one of us would be with Callie. And Kelsey would choose who she wanted to go with, depending on what friends were going to be where, what weekend.
And this is happening the last couple of years.
Yeah, the last couple of years. And Callie played on a boys team the year before. It was just a house team. So even then, somebody had to stay home when she was playing.
And these were decisions that you and Mrs. Kloosterman made together. That you would go off with these kids, or you'd stay home with that child. Or,
yes, absolutely.
She never raised any concern like, nope, I have to be here with you and the kids all the time.
No,
never told you I'm going anyway because I need to be with the kids and you all the time.
No, never.
Did she actually even ask you at times, can you go while I stay home, or vice versa?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we work together.
It was a collaborative.
Yes, absolutely.
Did you ever dictate to her and say, you're staying home and I'm going with Calvin, or something like that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
We worked pretty well together. We tried to make it as even as possible, who was watching what kid and where.
How would you describe Calvin's personality?
He's very driven. He's very motivated. He's passionate. He's very loving.
What are kind of his likes or dislikes as a person?
Likes things clean and orderly. He likes good grades. He likes to do well at everything he's doing. He's an amazing young man.
Does he enjoy school?
I don't know if a 15-year-old boy enjoys school, but he does well. He seems to like it. Once he gets there, he doesn't complain about it. He does well. He likes to be with his friends. He's proud of how well he does.
And we heard a lot about Calvin and hockey, but what other kinds of recreational activities does he enjoy?
Well, he plays football. He ran track this year. He's played about every sport. He loves to boat. He loves to wakeboard. He loves to fish and hunt and snowmobile. He does it all. All three of them do it all.
Do you do those kind of things with him too? I mean, obviously not the team sports, but other stuff, boating, snowmobiling.
Yeah, there's no place I'd rather be than on a boat with my kids.
Hunting, fishing.
Yeah, all of that.
Okay. How often do you communicate with Calvin?
I talk to him every day. I talk to all three kids every day. I call them every morning. I call them at night. If they text me during the day, I respond. I try not to text them during school hours, but if they text me or need something, I'm always there for them.
How do you communicate with them?
In the morning, if it's before school, I call. I try to call Calvin every day after football practice. I try to call Callie every day after a sporting event. Obviously, things have been a little different in this past sports season. I call Kelsey every day as she's getting ready in the morning. I call her every day when she's getting home from school. These are times that they're not with me. Obviously, I bring them to school when they're with me. I pick them up from school. When I pick Callie up from school and it's just Callie and I like to stop and have an ice cream cone with her, or if she just wants something to drink, I try to spend time with them. I've done the same thing with Kelsey once I pick her up. I love spending time with each one of them individually. I like to do what they want to do. I love my children.
What kind of activities do you do? I guess if it's just you and Calvin, let's talk about that. Like what things do you and Calvin like to do?
We like to go play golf. We like to fish. We like to watch sports. He just loves to wakeboard and tube. So we do a lot of boating. And anything that he wants to do, I'm willing to do with him. I just want to be with my kids and do what they want to do. I love being with each one of them individually and doing the things that they love.
Are those types of things, are they just as important as school and doctor's appointments and all that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that we get the weekly emails on how they're on their grades and how they're doing, and that's the same for Jen and I. I take just as much pride in what they're doing in the classroom as what they do on the athletic field.
Does Calvin have important friendships outside of the family unit?
He does.
Meaning the immediate family, you, Mrs. Switchman, the 3 kids total.
He does.
How do you foster those important friendships to him? How do you help him with those?
I mean, he's a teenage boy, so that can be difficult. I love spending time with him and his friends. I love to get to know his friends. I love that his friends want to be with Calvin and I. Jen and I have always tried to have the home where kids want to come to our home to hang out. We take pride in being the fun people. I love to take those boys golfing and wakeboarding and doing what they want to do and fishing. I've done a lot of that this summer with them. I try to do what they want to do. I love that he has those friendships with a certain few kids.
Now that Calvin's a little bit older, does he sort of make plans with his friends on his own?
He definitely does. Jen mentioned a situation yesterday where he wanted to go stay at Joel's house, and she had reached out to Casey. When Calvin had asked me, I know exactly what she's that weekend. Calvin asked me if he could stay at Joel's.
Objection, Your Honor.
There was an objection.
As to the defendant can't testify as to what the child told him or asked him.
Your Honor, it's not being offered to prove the truth of what the child said. I mean, there was
I don't need to know what the child said. I think it's hearsay. Let's try to ask it a different way.
Well, actually,
thank you.
You can the question I asked.
You're welcome to move on. Thank you.
Yeah, the question I asked was, how do you support and facilitate Calvin's friendships and close friendships? And the next question was then, does Calvin, now that he's 15, does he kind of make plans with his friends on his own?
Yeah, yes, he does. And I usually just ask him if he is whichever friend he is hanging out with, if they have asked their mom or dad. But he's 15. Most of that communication is through the boys. Even Callie, the same thing. I mean, it's the same exact situation.
Do you still keep track, obviously, of where your kids are? And
Oh
what they're
yeah,
doing?
yeah. I mean, yeah, no, absolutely. I keep track, and I bring them and pick them up, and I want to know what they're doing and talk to them while they're there, and tell them I want them to be on their best behavior.
And do you think that, in your opinion, as a parent, fostering those friendships and that desire as your children get older to sort of build those friendships on their own is important?
Absolutely.
What's Calvin's favorite summer activity?
Boating.
Winter activity?
Snowmobiling. I mean, he loves downhill ski, but it's got to be snowmobiling.
What's his favorite subject in school?
He's right now it's weights and conditioning, because that's all in preparation for him playing football and getting stronger and bigger, and he loves it. He texts both Jen and I if he like right now he's benching 200 pounds, and if he does 205, he's quick to text both of us, and we give him affirmation and tell him how proud we are, and half the stuff I don't know what he's even talking about, but we make sure that we are both telling him that we're proud of him and supporting him. And
there was there was one video that was entered into evidence yesterday where you were talking to Kelvin about his performance in hockey. Do you recall that video?
I do.
How old was Kelvin there at that video, you think?
Probably 10, 11.
Is that video demonstrative of how you usually talk to your children?
No.
Was that an isolated incident?
Well, I mean, Kelvin's a very motivated kid. He wants to be pushed. There's a fine line in that, but he loves to know when he doesn't play well. He wants to know what he can do better. Jen and I both push him because he wants to be pushed. There's a fine line. We don't cross that line. Callie.
We'll get to Callie in a second.
With Calvin, he absolutely wants to be pushed.
Have you heard Mrs. Kloosterman sort of critiquing or discussing with him poor performance in sports before?
Yes, I have. Maybe not to the extent.
That video we saw was not pushing. That was not constructive criticism. That was abuse. That was him aggressively snapping on his child, berating him and beating him down to nothing. Not in an effort or attempt to build him back up either, like what's done in the military per se. He was just doing it to be mean and cruel. Like, how can you justify this behavior? I understand why they're addressing it, because it's bad. It looks bad. It is bad. It was bad. So I get why they're addressing it, but come on. You can't justify that.
I don't want this to sound wrong, but maybe I understand the game in a different way, so I can see things, technique or whatever. I mean, but she definitely gets after him if she didn't think he played well or tried. It's more about effort than. I mean, it's one thing to not play good, but I mean, we both have always pushed him to give maximum effort.
Do you think that's important as a parent to do that?
Yeah, yes, I do. My dad, my mom, they pushed me as a kid to do my best. And I've always told Calvin, if you don't want to play something, if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. But if you're going to do it, like, do it, give it your all. He is so talented.
Let's talk about your daughter, Callie, for a little bit here. What's her personality like? How would you describe her?
She's loving, she's quiet, she's very athletic, she's very smart. She's an amazing kid. But she's quiet. She's an amazing young woman.
What are her likes and dislikes, do you think?
She loves hockey. She loves softball. She loves volleyball. She loves to be with her friends. She loves to boat and tube and go to Mackinac Island and do all of those fun things.
Does she seem to enjoy school?
I mean, she says she gets bored at school, but I think school comes pretty easy to her. So sometimes I think she gets bored. But I think she likes it. She likes being there with her friends. She loves to sing, so she loves to be in the choir. I think she likes it.
How often do you communicate with Callie?
I talk to her every day. I mean, when she's with me, obviously it's multiple times, but when she's not with me, I text her and call her multiple times in a day.
And if it's just you and Callie together hanging out, what kind of stuff do you guys do together?
Taking her for ice cream. I took her shopping 2 weeks ago, or maybe it's been longer, 3 weeks ago. She had a couple of hockey games in Gaylord, and just she and I went, and it was an amazing day. She played well. Then between games, I took her to Glick's over there and just let her be her. I let her just try on clothes that she wanted to try on. I think she only ended up getting one or two things, but I just like to let them be them and spend time with them. And I took her to Tropical Smoothie because the kids just love smoothies. When it's in town and here, I've taken her out to eat. When it's just her, I've taken her to Lululemon because she just loves to look around there. I've taken them to the bookstore downtown, taken them to Pangea, take her to Pangea's. Callie likes to read, so I like to take her to bookstores and just let her look around. I've taken her to Target. She loves Target. When I'm with each of the kids, I like to do what they want to do.
What kind of books does she like?
I mean, she jumps around. I can't say I know too much about what she's reading. When it comes to buying something, since Jen and I aren't together, I try to run stuff by her and send pictures of stuff or have her ask her mom. That did create an issue not too long ago. Callie had told me we were at,
Yeah, but you can't talk about it, Callie.
okay.
But as far as her selecting books, do you try to monitor that the content's
Yeah,
appropriate?
I try to monitor or I listen to what she tells me.
So she's just an avid reader, all kinds of genres.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you said she likes to sing. What does she like to sing?
She sings in the choir at school. When I'm taking her to school or picking her up, we like to play a game where I jump around on the music list or change the station, and there is never a song that she doesn't know the words to, and I try to stump her with her words. So she just loves to sing everything.
Does she also have like important friendships outside of
She
the
does.
immediate
Yeah,
family?
she does.
And how do you foster and support those friendships?
I mean, it's hard. It's different times of the year. She hangs out with a lot of people that she's playing that current sport with. Not a ton happens during the week unless they're seeing each other at practice. But weekends when they're playing is when they normally spend most of their time. If it's summertime, they'll have friends over, or she gets invited to do things, and I want to know where she is and what she's doing and what her plans are and all the things that a dad should know and do.
Do you ever just dump the kids off at somebody else's house and you don't want to deal with them?
No, I've never done
So if they're doing sleepover type stuff, what's the reason for that?
that. Because they were invited somewhere.
And was that pretty normal even prior to the separation?
That was, very normal before, and it's normal now. Nothing's changed.
What would you say is Callie's favorite summer activity?
I mean, sports wise, it's softball. If it's on the boat, she loves to. She loves Mackinac Island. We didn't do that much this year. Jen took them once. I took them once. But she loves to wakeboard and tube, and I took them fishing. She likes to fish, but probably wakeboarding.
What would you say is her favorite winter activity?
Hockey. The kids have really gotten into skiing. She loves to ski. But Callie is one that loves her downtime. That's when she loves to read. She just likes her quiet time. So I try to let her do that too.
What's her favorite subject in school, do you think?
Probably choir.
Let's talk about your daughter, Kelsey. All the K names. Was that intentional?
I don't know. I don't think it was intentional.
How would you describe Kelsey's personality?
She's a jokester. Her goal and everything she does is to make people laugh. She's very passionate. She's the biggest sweetheart in the world. She loves hard.
What are her likes or dislikes?
She loves to pick on her siblings. She loves her sports. She loves whatever sport. Her favorite sport is whatever the current one that she is playing. And she's very good at what she does. She loves the sports that her mom loved. She's obviously very close. She's very close with Jen. She loves to ski. She loves to tube. She loves to water ski and do all the water stuff. And she loves to keep up with the other two. So yeah, she's pretty amazing.
Do you see that she enjoys school?
The other two, I think, get their smarts from Jen. School comes a little easier for those two. I think Kelsey takes after me a little bit. She struggles in school. It comes a little harder for her. She has to work a little harder, it seems, than the other two. She struggled at Suns Bay. I mean, that was really a total mess for Kelsey. But getting her into TCAPS at Eastern, she's come a long ways.
How long ago did she switch schools?
It's I'm trying to think what year. 3 years ago. 3 years ago. So she's come a long ways, and she does much better in school. It makes her nervous. I think sometimes she worries, asking questions make her nervous.
And how do you support her in that? In her education, or maybe her.
I mean, I motivate her just to do her best, and I always tell her to never be worried about asking questions. Something that she loves to do with me when she's in the car with me is she wants me to ask her math problems, and it just goes on the whole time we're in the car. I start out somewhat easier to see where she's at. And they just get tougher and tougher, and I love it. I never get tired of it. I love that she likes that when I make them hard, and that's just something I love to do with her. I care very much about how she's doing in school, and all three of them are doing in school. I like to know what's going on. I've signed permission slips this year. I obviously have become more involved this school year than ever before. And I've actually loved every minute of it. And not that I wasn't involved before, but I was just doing other things that needed to be done with all three. But now I just love being involved and knowing what's going on and what the kids are doing. And I mean, I always knew what they were doing, but it's just different now, I guess.
Is it different because you're more like one-on-one?
Yes. Yeah, my week with them, it's all gung ho on them, and I make sure they're doing their homework and that they're
What
getting done what they need done.
Yeah, what types of, I guess, out of school or recreational activities do you think Kelsey enjoys the most?
Softball, volleyball, basketball. Luckily she stayed away from the hockey thing. Softball is probably her favorite. Again, it's whatever season we're in. She's did soccer for quite a long time. She's been part of a choir for quite a long time. She loves to sing too. She didn't do it this year, but she's very involved in a whole bunch of activities.
How often do you communicate with Kelsey?
I talk to Kelsey every day. I call her before school, call her after school. I ask her to call me before she goes to bed, and she does most of the time. Sometimes she falls asleep or whatever, doesn't work out. I understand how it is, but I communicate with them as much as possible.
So if you and Kelsey are just hanging out together, what kind of stuff do you guys do?
She loves the Starbucks. She loves, not that I take her to Starbucks a lot, but she loves to go get ice cream. She loves to ride bikes. I've taken them on the Boardman Lake Trail. She likes to go to Lululemon. She likes to go to Glicks, just like her big sister. I've taken her to the bookstore to try to get her into the whole reading thing, and she likes to read, but not like Callie. I take her on the boat, but whatever she wants to do is what I want to do.
What would you say is her favorite summer activity?
Probably, I mean, just swimming. She'd swim 24 hours a day if you'd let her. So I take them to the beach or the pool, but she plays softball. She loves the team, softball team, and being part of that team, and I coach that team.
What's her favorite winter activity?
She loves to ski. Being that we live in the city, skiing at Hickory is very reasonable. Having a membership over there is very reasonable. So there would be times if Jen had the other two at hockey practice, I would take Kelsey to Hickory and let her ski. If it was a half hour, whether it was 4 hours, whatever she wanted it to be, let her do her thing. Usually we would meet up with a friend, or that's her happy place in the winter. Even one time this past winter, it was raining and she was out there, and she was the only one on the hill, but they were open, and she got soaked, but she loved every second of it. And she's a wild and crazy girl.
What's her favorite subject in school?
Probably math. And just I would say that because just because of how much she asked me to do math. Obviously, Jen is a math teacher, so she likes to take after her mom in that sense and loves that world. She loves the games that they play, the activities that they do. I actually talked to her this morning, and she was excited about Family Feud. They were must have been playing Family Feud today. And she thought that was cool because that's a show that we watch together, and so she was excited about that.
Yesterday, Mrs. Kloosterman testified to a time that she asked you if you and Kelvin wanted her to pick up, I'm guessing it was carry out food, pick up food for the two of you when she was picking up food for herself and the girls. And she testified that you responded that Kelvin could eat at home and he did not deserve it. Do you recall that testimony?
I do.
Were you suggesting in that response that your child not eat at all?
No, absolutely not. And that occasion, Kelvin was just kind of acting out, talking back, and I didn't think he deserved to have, I forget what the takeout Jen offered, but I felt like you don't reward them if they're going to disrespect their parents or their coaches or whatever the situation was. But no, I would never not have him eat. I just suggested that he eat at home. And find something there, and if you're going to misbehave, there's got to be some sort of consequence for that behavior.
Was it that the carry out food or whatever the restaurant was a treat?
Yeah, I feel like it is. I mean, yeah, I thought it was.
You weren't suggesting that you starve your child?
No, absolutely not. I would never starve my children. They eat nonstop. I just didn't think he should be rewarded with that takeout meal. I thought he should have to make a sandwich, or I mean, not him make it, we would make it. But
I mean, did you eat at home that day too?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay. And there was food at home.
Oh yeah, there's always food at home.
Mrs. Kusterman testified to a time she asked you to pack some sandwiches for lunch, and you did not. Do you recall that testimony?
I recall the testimony. Yes.
Did that happen?
Yes.
What was the reason?
The girls didn't want sandwiches. They said they weren't going to eat them. So I offered up a different suggestion. Whether I think the girls love the fruit cups and granola bars. I just let them choose something else. I'm not going to make them a sandwich if they don't want it. They're just going to throw it away or whatever.
So did you add to whatever Mrs. Kusterman had already
absolutely,
that day?
Absolutely. I gave them options.
Okay.
There's been other times they've said that, and I've actually taken them to the store on the way to school or whatever, and they pick out a different option. I mean, I try to be reasonable with them. I'm not starving them.
Mrs. Wisterman also testified to a time that she asked you to prepare breakfast, and you did not. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
What was going on there that day?
I made something that Callie didn't want at the time, and that I'm not going to just throw away one thing so she can choose something else. So I said, you eat this, so you're not getting anything.
I mean, have you had that with children? You have 3 children. Is there a time when it happens with children that you make something and they don't want it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that pretty normal?
That's pretty normal.
Do you think you should just make unlimited food selections for children?
No, I don't.
Okay, were you trying to starve your daughter?
No, I was not trying to starve her by any means, and she did eat it. It was oatmeal.
And so she ended up eating.
She ended up eating it.
Okay. Have you ever failed to provide food for your children?
No. If anything, I probably have too much food for them. I never want them to be hungry. If we're going somewhere, I always make sure we have enough food.
You heard Mrs. Fisherman's testimony today. The kids come back to her house, quote unquote, starving after they've been with you. Does that resonate with you at all? Does that make any sense to you based on what you know about what happens when they're with you?
It doesn't make any sense. It's around dinner time. I mean, this past Sunday, I knew that they were gonna do some meat on the smoker when the kids got home. So why would I feed them if I knew when they got to Jen that that's what she was doing?
Because somebody had told you, or you had knowledge in some way that they had a dinner.
I knew that they were having dinner when they got home.
Okay. So again, you've never starved your children. You've never failed to provide them food.
No. I mean, Kelvin eats nonstop. When they're with me, I make him a lunch. He eats a lunch at school, and I make him 4 extra sandwiches that he eats during the day at school.
4 sandwiches.
4 sandwiches.
In addition to lunch.
In addition to lunch, and he has a lunch, and he.
Okay, I'm just calling BS. I know teenagers can eat a lot, but I think he's exaggerating. There's absolutely no way that the kid can eat that much and not be 500 pounds, unless the kid's just running a marathon 24/7 while he's eating a lunch plus 4 extra sandwiches when he comes home. Like, come on. Like, you don't need to exaggerate to make your story. Well, I mean, you might, because your story sucks, but that's besides the point.
Lunch that he can't provide. I mean, he is a growing boy. He likes to joke about when he walks through the hallway and walks past one of the football coaches' classrooms and says, "Hey, Kloosterfrick, eat another sandwich," and he's always got sandwiches.
Is Mrs. Kloosterman well aware that you provide your children with food?
She's very aware.
So, why were we having this conversation about breakfast and sandwiches?
Honestly, I think this has turned into a game for Jen. I think it's her goal to make me look bad at every opportunity that she has. And it's as simple as that. She is doing whatever it takes to get the kids as much as she wants.
And I mean, in the last couple of years, your testimony was she agreed and sent you off out of town with the kids at times, one of the kids or more of the kids. Was there any concern that you weren't going to provide the children food?
No.
Did she ever say, "Here's all the food I'm packing for the weekend because I don't trust you to give them food"?
There would be times that she would pack stuff, but it was just in addition to our meals. It was never because she felt I wasn't going to eat them.
Or at least she never, expressed it.
Yeah, she never told
I mean,
me.
if she packed food, did she pack enough food for the whole weekend?
No, it was more like granola bars and apples, and Calvin eats nonstop.
Like
so it's in addition to
travel food, snacks.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So it wasn't like,
no, it was never,
here's enough food to cover the whole
no, it
weekend.
was never meals. I mean,
Okay.
we always ate out with the team or picked up a sandwich or whatever. I mean, or went out for, for breakfast or whatever.
You're living separately from Mrs. Kloosterman right now, is that correct?
That is correct.
When did that start?
I think April 14, maybe. I've heard.
What transpired or what was said or discussed? I'm not really clear on that caused you to leave the marital home at that time.
Jen and I got into an argument, and she told me I needed to go stay at my parents'.
Was that a mutual decision?
No.
Did you really want to go stay at your parents'?
No, I absolutely did not want to go stay at my parents'.
Why'd you leave then?
I left because the last few years, if Jen gets mad at me, she tries to threaten me with what happened in 2019. She will pull her phone out and she says, "If you don't leave, I'm going to call the police." And it's not even things I did anything. It's just her way of getting her way. And so I'm scared of her. So when she told me to leave, I just thought, okay, I'll leave for the weekend or whatever, and hopefully things calm down. And I didn't go back for a while until I was told I could.
How often would she pull?
What is happening right now? I feel like we entered the Twilight Zone. Oh my goodness.
Her phone and say, "Hey, I'm going to call the police"?
In the last year, it's probably happened once or twice.
And what was usually going on? Were you were you doing anything that would warrant police?
No, not at all.
Did she say what she was going to tell the police when she called?
No, I never got that far because I think she knew I would leave. It was just an intimidation.
Did she also, excuse me, did she also video or audio record you to your knowledge?
Yes.
How did that feel living in a home where somebody would record you?
It made me extremely uncomfortable. This spring, I would only be there when the kids were there. As soon as the kids were in bed, I would leave and go for walks, hours long walks. And that's when Jen said she wanted to know when I was coming back into the house. I would never come back until she was sleeping because I felt unsafe.
Why'd you feel unsafe?
Just because I didn't know what Jen was gonna do. She was very good at threatening me.
See, I believed it from her. Like, she was believable in her testimony about, not feeling safe and abuse allegations and stuff. Him, it's a joke. Come on. No one believes you, dude. Just stop. Just stop it. No one believes you, I don't think. I really don't think. And to answer the question, no, they have not addressed any acts for pets or the other allegations yet. But yeah, if you're gonna cry, like, at least do it for longer than a moment. Take a minute. Do one of those. Please, I need a sec. Something. Come on. Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh. We'll get through this together. See, I couldn't do this without you. I couldn't do this without you. Nope. You guys are. Love you. Much love. I'm so glad you're here with me through this. I couldn't do this without you.
She testified that I think she used the term walking on eggshells, and that's how she felt. How did you feel at that time?
I felt the same way. I mean, we were pretty civil when the kids were around. I mean, it was awkward. There's no doubt. But if I went to sleep, I mean, most of the times the girls would sleep with Jen, and I would just sleep in one of their rooms. I got to the point where I was even propping up a broom on the door so that she would knock it over if she was coming in, because there would be times she'd try to come in and start arguments with me. There were times it got so bad that I finally left to sleep in our boat that was at storage, and then I would return early in the morning before the kids woke up. Stuff like that.
And I kind of want to go back to back in April when you first, because we kind of mix those timelines up a little bit, but so you, in April, she told you leave, or I'm going to call the police. That was your testimony, correct?
Yeah, that time she didn't tell me that she was going to call the police. She just told me I needed to leave and that I wasn't welcome. And I mean, I want to get along, so it wasn't like, okay, I'm just going to go to my parents for the weekend. Let's let this thing calm down.
So that was the end of April. When did you go back to the house?
That was June, maybe June. I don't know exact date.
So let's talk about that time, end of April, June. You were living with your parents or staying at your parents?
Yes.
Were you kicked out of the house? Were you not permitted to come back in?
Jen told me she did not want me staying there. I would go into the house during the day if no one was there. I would come back if the kids were around. I tried to keep things normal with the kids. I still picked up Callie and took her to school. I'd come back, and once Jen left, I would go in the house and spend time with Kelsey, get her ready for school, and then leave, get her to school, and then I would go to work, and I would return, when the kids were around. But I didn't sleep there.
I mean, so that time period, Mrs. Klusterman was well aware and consented to you coming to pick up your daughters and take them to school.
Oh, absolutely.
That was something.
Absolutely. I mean, that the kid stuff didn't change. We at that point we didn't have, well, that was a later date, but we didn't follow the FOC. We just continued on, things were normal.
Well, we'll get to the temporary order in a minute, but I'm still talking about this
Yeah.
earlier time period. Did you learn at some point that on May 17th, Miss Klusterman filed for divorce?
I did.
And with that filing, she asked for exclusive use and enjoyment of the home.
I mean, I learned that later on.
But she filed that on the 17th. You just, okay,
Yes.
We'll get to when you learned that. And she asked for that to be ordered ex parte, which you now understand means without a hearing, right?
Okay.
It-
Yes.
Okay. That was not granted without a hearing. Is that fair?
Correct.
When did you learn about all this stuff being filed?
Not until I started communicating with you.
If the record reflects that you received service on May 31st, would that sound correct? That's when you learned of it?
Yes.
How did you learn of these filings that she made?
You reached out to her attorney.
So
And you told me.
So you were not, she didn't have these delivered to you by a processor or certified mail or something?
No.
Um,
I mean, things started showing up at the house, but I didn't live there. So I didn't receive them.
and she knew you weren't at the
And
house.
she knew I didn't live there.
Okay. So you think maybe she had stuff mailed to that? You're not sure.
I'm not sure. I only ever received a couple of things. One thing, she would send mail over, but I didn't get that till later on.
So around the end of May 31st, is what the record shows, you learned and received a copy of Mrs. Klusterman's motion for exclusive use and enjoyment of the home.
Correct.
And then we had a hearing in front of Judge Hamlin on June 12th. Is that correct?
That is correct.
In her motion, do you recall her alleging that there was any abuse of herself or the children as a basis for why she should have exclusive use of the home?
No.
When we got to the hearing, do you recall her alleging that you'd ever abused the children?
No.
When we got to the hearing, did she allege that you'd abused her?
No.
Did she have new allegations at the hearing
She did.
that weren't in her motion?
Correct.
And that was that there were sexual advances.
Correct.
And even after hearing that, do you recall that Judge Hamlin ordered that she would not have exclusive use of the home?
Yes. Don't believe I returned that day. I think it was maybe the next day, but
And when you tried to move back into your marital home that you both jointly had enjoyed at that point, or up to, just before then, did she dictate anything to you about your coming and going or being in the home?
yes, she told me I had to enter through the garage door so that she would know when I was coming and going. And she told me that I was to sleep downstairs.
And even though, do you recall being at the June 12th hearing in front of Judge Hamlin?
I mean, yes.
And did he verbally deny the motion for exclusive use of the home on the record at that time?
He did.
And do you recall if there was a written order also saying that?
I believe so.
Do you know when that written order was sent out?
I don't remember the dates, but I'm sure it was right away.
If the record indicates June 20th, does that sound correct?
Okay.
Does that sound familiar to you?
That was familiar.
Okay. Is it fair to say with all that, Mrs. Kloosterman filed a motion to get something, she didn't get it, it wasn't granted, she didn't get what she wanted, she didn't get exclusive use of the home, right?
Correct.
Okay. What happened on June 30th?
What day of the week was that?
Okay, that Friday, June 30th. What happened Friday, June 30th, if anything?
I believe that's the day that her parents showed up.
Her parents showed up
What is,
at the marital home.
yeah, I mean, that week her parents showed up, and it was very apparent that I was not to be there.
What do you mean by that? What was going on?
I don't know, they just kind of informed me that her parents were coming to stay at the house. And yeah, I mean, if I have my dates correct, it definitely happened that week. That could have been a couple of days. June 30th may have been the day that Calvin called me and told me that the police were looking for her.
Objection.
I'm sorry.
Can't talk about what
Okay.
Kelvin called you,
Calvin called me.
but can't say what he said.
Okay.
Okay. So that week, whether it was Friday, June 30th or a couple days before, Mrs. Kloosterman informed you that her parents were coming. Was that normal? Would she normally just simply have her parents come and inform you? Was that normal during the marriage?
Not like that.
What do you mean not like that? What was different this time?
Well, normally it'd be like, hey, my parents are coming this weekend, or hey, my parents are coming up for the day. And that time it was, my parents are coming to stay at the house. I think they came, her dad was going to change her brakes, and at that time I felt very unsafe around her parents. So I called my parents and had them come over just to be eyes. And we stayed outside. Jen's parents stayed inside.
Why did you feel unsafe around her parents?
I felt at this point they were, I don't know, I didn't want a scene. I didn't.
Prior to that, was Mrs. Kloosterman's father seen outside of your shop?
Yes, I have seen him multiple times at my shop watching me. I saw him drive in front of my parents' house one time when I was outside late at night getting some stuff out of my truck. And multiple times outside of my shop.
And that week, whether it was June 30th or a couple days before, were you asked if it was okay for people to stay at your home?
No.
You were told.
I was told.
Did you make a decision then to just leave the situation?
I did.
Okay.
I mean, that when the day that her parents showed up, I mean, I tried to be nice. We got along. It was really awkward. It just seemed like they were trying to push me out, I guess.
And Mrs. Kloosterman had made it clear within a couple weeks prior to that she really didn't want you there. She filed a motion and whatnot. Okay.
Right. No, I definitely felt like a guest and felt unwelcome.
And that's your own home.
That's my own home. It was our home.
Yeah, I mean, it was your family home,
Yeah.
right? Did something happen Sunday morning?
Sunday morning, just because I felt like it was unsafe to.
July 2nd.
July 2nd.
Sunday morning.
Sunday
July 2nd.
morning. That was the day. So the Saturday, Sunday, there showed. Jen was having the kids that Saturday. Sunday morning, I was set to have the kids at 9 a.m. My parenting time was set to start at 9 a.m. Just because of the events earlier in the week, I'm like, it just doesn't make any sense for me to go over there. So I sent my mom and my sister. And not too long after they went over there, I got a call from the police saying they needed me to sign some paperwork. And so they came to my parents' house, and that's when I found out that Jen had put a PPO on me.
And the date that PPO was requested and issued, was that Friday, June 30th?
Friday, June 30th. And later, and I realized that weekend multiple times why Jen's dad was following me. And
well, we don't know why he was following, but he was following you?
He was following me that week. That weekend, it was quite evident.
Okay. So he was following you on Friday and Saturday?
Yes.
So after the PPO was issued, before you had been served?
Yes.
You saw him multiple times?
I saw him multiple times.
Where'd you see him?
I was
Your Honor, I'm gonna object to relevancy. This line of questioning has gone on quite a long time, but I'm not sure how it relates to the child or children, the grandpa seeing the defendant about town.
Grandpa stalking my client is relevant to the overall family relationship, threats, intimidation, and really is quite relevant to the issue of him being denied parenting time that we're getting to.
Well, didn't you ask him about this? This is the person who testified, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So Ms. Lentz, I believe you asked him these exact questions as to whether he did these things.
Okay.
I'm not sure I could say he's got a right to respond to that.
I understand.
This is all unclear. I assume that's the person who testified, was it Mr. DeVries?
Correct.
Yes.
That's who we're talking about.
Okay, then overruled.
Thank you. Sir, where did you see Mrs. Kloosterman's father, Mr. DeVries?
Well, my dad's shop is over on Lake Avenue, which is over by Oriana. I was on 10th Street turning left onto Lake again, and I saw him right at that intersection. I pulled into our shop. This was like at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. And it was absolutely him. I pulled into our shop, stood by my truck a minute, and he drove from the down Lake Avenue. It went really slow. A couple minutes later, he came back the other way. And then a few minutes later, I saw him pull onto 11th Street, which looks right into our property. And he was sitting right there watching me.
For how long?
Probably 20 minutes.
Okay. Going back to the PPO, when you received it, did it direct you that you could not be at the residence of Mrs. Kloosterman?
Correct.
Which would be the marital home.
Correct.
The same marital home she had asked for exclusive use of and was denied by Judge Hamlin.
Yes.
Did you notice that the PPO was signed by Judge Hamlin or a different judge?
Signed by Judge Elsenheimer.
By Judge Elsenheimer. And it was dated 10 days after Judge Hamlin issued an order directing otherwise.
Correct.
Okay. Now you were due to get parenting time that weekend, Sunday,
Correct.
the 2nd.
Correct. We were special scheduling for Cherry Festival. Each one of us were set to get a air show day. Jen had Saturday. I was to get Sunday. Just because of the tension of things, at that point I didn't know about the PPO. I sent my mother and my sister to go pick up the kids. And Jen did not open the door and give them the kids. And
they returned back to you with no children.
They returned back to no children. Just as the police showed up to the house and we figured out that we had a PPO, my dad called my mom and said, you might as well come back.
And you had a special parenting time scheduled for Cherry Festival, 4th of July.
Yes, we did.
Cherry Festival air show specifically. Why is that?
Cherry Festival is a huge thing for our family. We love the air show. we love the 4th of July. We love everything about the festival, the busyness, the rides. Our whole family does so much together that week. I have an aunt and uncle that live right on the base of the peninsula, and when the jets fly, it's right over the house. There's not a better place to watch it, and that's where we want to be. And they have a pool, and we usually spend the air show days there, maybe one day on the boat. Every single year, we spend the 4th of July there. We love to do all the Cherry Festival events as much as we can that week. But
And the special provisions that were in that temporary order, was that something you discussed with your friend of the court caseworker? Because
yes,
these are special events.
correct.
Um,
If I remember correctly, it was Jen's idea to split the week.
okay. And prior to this temporary order, was Mrs. Kloosterman having conversations with you about wanting to also attend these family events with you?
Yes, she wanted to attend the events.
The air show at your aunt and uncle's house?
Yes, she didn't understand why she wasn't invited.
Did you tell her you're not invited?
I told her she was not invited.
Okay. How did she react to that?
She was very unhappy with that.
Um,
She didn't understand why she wouldn't be invited.
at that time, divorce proceedings had already begun. Is
Yeah,
that
they had
correct?
already begun,
Okay.
yes.
And there was a lot of tension in the family at that
There was
point.
a lot
Is
of
that fair to
tension.
say?
Yes,
Okay.
there was a lot of tension.
Did you get the kids for the air show on Sunday the 2nd?
I did not.
Did you get the kids for the court ordered half of Cherry Fest week that you were supposed to get?
I did not.
Did you get the kids for the 4th of July holiday?
I did not.
When you were served a copy of the PPO, that was Sunday, July 2nd, did it indicate communication only through our family wizard?
Can you repeat that?
Did the PPO order indicate that you could only have communication with Mrs. Klusterman through our family wizard?
I think it did, but I didn't know what it was.
No idea what our
No
family.
idea. No idea.
Did it come with any instructions that said, here's what our family wizard is, and here's how you use it and what
Right.
you do with it?
Right. I didn't have any idea what it was.
And since it was Sunday, July 2nd, and the 4th of July holiday was Tuesday, did you need to confer with your attorney myself to understand what that order meant?
Yes, I didn't want to do anything that I wasn't allowed to do, and I didn't know what that was, so I waited until Wednesday when I could communicate with you.
And I mean, did it have any effect on you that police are handing you a piece of paper that is restricting your rights?
Yes, absolutely.
Does that, make you fearful of doing anything?
That made me very fearful.
As soon as you were able to talk to me on Wednesday, were you able to get on our family wizard and communicate with Mrs. Klusterman?
I was.
Okay. So that was that sort of confusion was resolved rather quickly as soon as business hours open.
Correctly.
When was the last time you missed an air show with your kids?
I have never missed an air show with my kids until this year.
How about a 4th of July?
Never.
How about Cherry Fest?
Never. I will say that Saturday, the end Saturday of Cherry Festival, she did offer them up to me, but again, it was when a time I didn't know what I could do if I was violating something by taking the kids. So I said no, because I didn't have a way of communicating with you.
She didn't offer that until Saturday.
She did not offer that until Saturday.
And it wasn't as part of the custody order, right?
Right.
And
My family and I decided that was in my best interest to say no, because I didn't know what the rules were.
Did the personal protective order restrict you from removing minor children from the petitioner except as allowed by a custody or parenting time order?
Yes, that's what I was told.
That's what it says,
That's
right?
what it says. Yeah.
Okay. And therefore that Saturday pursuant to the front of the court temporary order in this case wasn't your parenting.
Correct.
And you were concerned that
I would be violating it.
okay. And it wasn't until the last Saturday of Cherry Festival
Right.
week that she even offered you any sort of makeup time for the Lost Air show, 4th of July, or the first half of Cherry Fest.
Correct. And I would like to add that she, not only did she keep the kids from me that week, she sent me a message on the Wizard asking if I would give her some money for the money that she had spent at the rides down at the Cherry Festival.
Did you contested the PPO, right?
Yes.
And we had a hearing scheduled lined up on that.
Correct.
On September 5th, did you and Mrs. Kloosterman through legal counsel enter into a stipulation that was approved by the court on September 5th that dismissed the PPO?
Yes.
That was, Mrs. Kloosterman agreed to that.
Correct.
Okay. So the PPO is no longer an issue as of September 5th, fair to say?
Correct.
How did the PPO affect sort of your parenting time or how you conducted yourself with your children from the time of really July 2nd when you were served to September 5th when it was formally dismissed?
It made it very hard. I was scared to go places with them because I didn't know where Jen would be. I coached Kelsey's softball game. I coached her softball team. I had to miss the last 3 games of the season because she insisted on going, and I was under your.
No, you make your own decisions.
Well,
you tell me what happened.
I was advised to not attend any event that Jen would be at, so I did not. I did not go to those softball games. Kelvin had like summer football. I did not attend that. I didn't attend anything that it would be possible that Jen would be at.
You knew, however, that the PPO didn't restrict you from going there or being in a public space, right?
I was made aware of that, and I don't trust her.
Why don't you trust her?
I think she would have benefited a lot if she would have been able to put me in jail from violating that order.
Are you now aware that she also went to the police and attempted to get you criminally charged as well in that time period?
I am aware of that now. I was not made aware of that until the day that I met with you and CPS.
And we did Freedom of Information Act and we got some records, right? So
Correct.
that's how you, no criminal charges were ever made.
No criminal charges.
But did that give you concern as to if you appeared in Mrs. Kloosterman's eyesight, what she could do with a PPO in place or what she could allege or anything?
Yes.
And so were you fearful at that point of?
I was very afraid.
And did it affect your freedom really to conduct yourself with respect to your children in the same manner you always had?
It affected big time. And it affected the kids because I wasn't able to go to their stuff. I finally went to a football game with my family. But I didn't go to a single volleyball game. I was scared, but her to come after me, but that affected the kids. She hurt the kids. The kids were the ones that paid the price.
After, and I apologize, I'm kind of going back and forth in the time frame, but so after Cherry Fest week and after you were served with the PPO pursuant to the temporary order, when were you expecting to get the kids next?
I forget the exact schedule. It was almost 3 weeks in between the times that I had seen the kids.
Was Cherry Fest week, that was supposed to be split, correct?
That was supposed to be split.
And then the following week, Mrs. Kloosterman claimed was her week.
It was her week, yes.
How did, I guess, you were living in the home until what, Friday, June 30th. Which was, the Friday of Cherry Fest. How did she come to the conclusion, or do you know, did you guys have a discussion that was her week, the next week after Cherry Fest?
No, it wasn't until Cherry Festival communication on the Wizard that she told me that was her week.
That was not something you necessarily agreed to as far as starting the week on, week off rotation.
No.
So she took that very next, so she had the kids all of Cherry Fest week.
I believe she had them 3 weeks in a row.
And then she had them.
Yes.
And so the next time you were due to see them, when was that?
Maybe the second or third week of July.
Your exchanges are on Sundays?
Oh, yeah, Sundays. Yeah.
So would that, I guess, be Sunday, July 16th?
Correct.
Okay. Did you get the kids that week?
I did.
Okay. And then the next week was her week?
Correct.
And then the next Sunday, when was that?
That Friday.
Well, no, I'm just asking you, were you due to get the kids on Sunday, July 30th?
Yes.
So did something happen on Friday, I guess, July 28th?
Yes, I got a call from Kelvin.
Without telling me what he said, did you do something in response to getting that communication from him?
I called you. And I was able to get a hold of you just before 5 o'clock.
Did you also receive a call from somebody else that day?
I got a call from CPS. I called you first, but then I got a call from them.
And then what happened on Sunday when you were supposed to get the kids?
Our pickup was always at Faith Reformed Church. I showed up at 6 o'clock, and Jen did not show up with the kids.
When did you get the kids eventually?
I got them Tuesday night of that next week.
So from the time that you left the marital home around Friday, June 28th, how many parenting time weeks were interfered with?
All of Cherry Festival, and I did have one normal week, and then she interfered with the next week.
We now know through Mrs. Kloosterman's testimony yesterday that Child Protective Services investigation related to some allegations that Ms. Kloosterman is still making, that you're exhibiting grooming behaviors with respect to sexual abuse of your children. What's your response to that?
I would never do anything to harm even any of my children. I would never do anything to harm my daughters. My kids are my world. I just couldn't believe that she did that to me. And she accused me of that. She absolutely knows that that's false.
How did it feel when you had to hear those allegations from a CPS caseworker?
It was heartbroken. I have nothing without my kids. They are everything to me. And to hear that I was being accused of that, I just couldn't believe it.
How did it feel yesterday to hear Mrs. Kloosterman make the same allegation again?
Nothing surprises me anymore with Jen. She's going to do whatever it takes to get what she wants.
Before yesterday, did you and her both know that CPS closed the case and didn't find any preponderance of evidence of any of those allegations?
Very aware.
We have the CPS report. You read it, right?
Yes.
it was sent to her attorney long before yesterday. Yes,
Yes,
and she still made that allegation yesterday, huh?
yes,
Any truth to that at all?
none whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Would you say that was the second time in 6 weeks, 3 parenting time visits, that Mrs. Kloosterman did something to interfere and deny your parenting time?
Yes,
During the term of separation, before that temporary order was issued, how often were you seeing the kids?
every day.
And this is something that Mrs. Kloosterman agreed with.
Yes,
Were you seeing the kids without her around?
yes,
And that's something she agreed with.
yes, absolutely.
And here we are, not even a couple months later, and she's sitting here saying that you've been abusing these kids since they were 8 and 9 years old for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Did she ever give you any indication in all that time you can't be alone with these kids?
No, never.
In fact, even as recently as April, May, no court order, she's having you alone with the kids.
Right.
Last winter, she had you traveling with the kids
Yeah,
by yourself.
correct. I traveled with the daughters without Jan. Never anything.
Even in Mrs. Kloosterman's trial brief that is dated July 11th, did she make any such allegations in there about physical abuse of the children, sexual grooming behaviors, anything like that?
No,
No accusations at all until
none.
CPS, and then
So the allegations aren't that he actually molested the children by any means. The allegations were that he was exhibiting possible grooming behavior. Grooming behavior is something that can take years to develop. So it's very possible that that he was exhibiting some form of grooming behavior towards his daughter. I don't know. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he actually committed the act. So as far as, she should go to jail if she made those allegations and they weren't true, it's hard to say, because grooming behavior covers a very wide span of behaviors. So it can be something that seems innocent, but done over a very long period of time, kind of makes a child less likely to report if something does happen. You know what I mean? But it's very possible that the wife saw something, that concerned her. It, with all of the allegations that were kind of admitted to, or that we are certain happened, I wouldn't put it past him. I'm not saying to have actually done the deed, but to be exhibiting behaviors that could be considered grooming behaviors, sure, I could see that. It's hard to say, because grooming behaviors is such a wide variety of characteristics. So anyways, that's just my 2 cents. She didn't actually say that the deed happened. So, but she was concerned by his behaviors. I completely understand that needing to be addressed.
Was there any allegations of physical abuse of the children?
No.
Yeah, yesterday she testified to it for the first time in any of these proceedings. Is that
That's correct.
I have quite a bit more. I don't know if we can take a 5-minute break.
Sure, just give me a sec. Yeah, I'll finish my note in a second. Yeah.
Woo, we made it through that. Okay. And while we were doing that, I got 9 ready to go. Forgive me, guys. Okay. You guys are amazing for putting up with that. Oh my goodness. But it just shows you, what I am willing to do for you guys. I mean, that took a lot of maneuvering, I guess, to get that to work. That was crazy. One thing I didn't do, I meant to title this, so I hope this video that says untitled is actually the one that I want, but I have to move it off this drive and put it directly on the computer so that it doesn't glitch out. Oh, please transfer correctly. Yeah. So, but yeah, that clip at about 26 minutes in, on number 8, 26 minutes in, the audio gets this robotic tone and then completely shuts off. And then the video freezes and there's nothing. The entire, don't you dare, kitty. Don't you dare. Hold on. Yeah. My daughter's boyfriend got me a really good deal on an elite book so that I could stream and edit at the same, or not stream, so that I could record and edit at the same time, because otherwise I was having I'd have a really awesome clip happening in one courtroom and then I couldn't edit it, or it couldn't continue editing what I was working on because I'd have to stop everything to go get the clip, so he got me a great deal on an elite book so that I could do 2 things at once. But anyways, where was I? Anyways, Kitty was going to knock Elite Book down. And now my brain is just gone. This whole thing has been a Kloosterfrick. But yeah, so anyways, I'm transferring the file right now. And I have to read chat on my phone. But yeah, you guys hanging around for that. That was amazing. Aw, thanks, not to mama. Yeah, that clip was corrupted. So I couldn't turn it into an MP4 because every program that I ran it through, it'd get to that 26-minute point and then it would freeze and shut down, or I would get some codec error, or say file not supported, or it wouldn't play at all, not at all. So, and as it is, just to come up with clips for you guys as it is, I have to run 4 different programs to get it to happen. So, which, you know, brings up a good point. If anybody wants to support the channel, because one of the things that I have had to do is I've had to purchase some programs like the StreamYard forced me into purchasing it because apparently I stream too much. So I've had to pay for some subscriptions in order to be able to provide the content. So if anybody wants to support the channel and wants to support the growth of the channel, I do have my Cash App in the description. I don't know if I put it on this one. I know it's in the description of the other ones, and I know it's on my About tab. And the only reason why I have to go that route, YouTube took away my monetization until January. So some clips got left up that I had made for Mike that weren't intended to be, you know, they weren't my content. They were made for Mike, you know, so he streamed them. But because they weren't anything but something just yanked off the internet, they were considered reused content. And because of that, it's blocked my ability to get any monetization. So, so no super chats, no memberships, nothing until January. So if you would like to support me sooner than that, yes, like and subscribe. Absolutely. Please, please, please. Those are 100% free. If you want to go more than that, Cash App or PayPal tip jar. But regardless, whether you guys do that or not, I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to do this because I love you and you guys make me happy. Spending this time with you makes me absolutely delighted. I am just so well chuffed to have all of you in my life. So, on to number 9.
We're back on the record on case number 2317423 PM. Ms. Schmelzer.
Oh,
Thank
so
you.
much better.
Mr. Guzman, obviously you're still under oath. We took a short break. I want to turn your attention to some of the best interest factors at this point. Can you please explain the love, affection, and sort of emotional ties that exist between your children and yourself? If you can. I know it's kind of a...
I mean, I'm very close to each one of them. I hug them. I love on them. Calvin's 15, so it's not like he wants me to kiss him on the cheek or anything, but I still sneak that in every now and then and just tell him how much I love him. The girls, I kiss them on their cheek, good night, or when I'm anytime throughout the day that I get the opportunity to hug them and love on them and squeeze them and kiss them on the cheek when I can. I love to give them all the attention that they've ever wanted and ever needed and more. I want to give them everything that they've ever wanted and needed. I would do absolutely anything for my kids. They are everything to me. And I love them more than anything.
Boo-hoo! Sorry, I can
Do
finally...
kids ever come to you? And again, we can't really talk about what they say, but do they come to you with like friend problems, school problems? They talk to you about that kind of stuff, those topics.
Yes, they do.
And you testified that, you talk to them daily, even through this separation and sort of change in the family structure. What kind of love and affection and emotional ties do you see between the kids and Mrs. Kloosterman?
All the same things. Jen's a great mom. A fantastic mom. I don't always love her style and how she does things, but she loves them more than anything. I think when it comes to being a mother, I think she's amazing. And she loves on them. She hugs them. She's always there for them. Both of us would do absolutely anything for the three of them. It's the same. It's the same. We try to be there for them in everything we can.
And that sort of leads into the next, I guess, question. Do you have the capacity and disposition to give the children, love and affection?
Absolutely.
Do you have the capacity and disposition to guide the children in their education?
Absolutely.
Mrs. Kloosterfrick had testified that the children FaceTime or call her about their homework, even during your parenting time. You recall that testimony?
Yes.
And do they do that?
Yes, because I motivate them push them to do that. Jen is a great asset for them when they need help.
Are there things that you're good at that help the kids that, maybe Mrs. Kloosterman isn't?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it kind of like we're two parents and we're working together to raise the kids?
Yes.
Okay. Do you refuse to help them with their homework?
Never.
Do you pay attention to the fact that they have homework and need?
Absolutely. We eat dinner and if they have an event, we take them to that. I even try to get them to do their homework before they go to practice. Sometimes that doesn't work out. Kelvin's sometimes got 2 sports and he doesn't get back till late, but I absolutely question them over and over to make sure that it's all done, that they have it complete, that if they have any questions to call Jen or ask me if I can do that. But I try to make it so that we're both available for the kids, but I absolutely pay attention to what they're doing and need to get done. And
even though you guys are living in separate households now, and that kind of seems where the future is going, do you still see parenting as a collaborative process?
Absolutely.
Would you ever not want your kids to call Mrs. Kloosterman during your parenting time?
No, I actually suggest it. I tell them, I know when they're with Jen, it bothers me when I don't hear them before bed. So I try to make sure that they contact her before they go to bed.
So
I want them to have a fantastic relationship with her.
Okay. And with respect to schoolwork, Mrs. Kloosterman testified that she gets the kids back on Sunday at 6 and they don't have their schoolwork done for Monday. Is that your experience?
Sometimes it depends on what we're doing. This past Sunday, I was in Sheboygan with Kelvin, and we actually got back about 10 to 6, actually. So when we got back, Kelvin got his stuff together, and Jen was there at 6 to pick up the kids. But if we're not running around for events, I would absolutely try to have them have their homework done, just because I want them to go home and have some fun time with Jen. I don't want it to be, we just got to go home and do homework and it's bedtime or whatever.
This past weekend, what was going on with the kids? Like what was the activity?
Friday night, I took Callie to Midland for a hockey game. Calvin plays JV and varsity football. He had a Friday night football game, but I was in Midland with Callie. We played in her game and drove back to Traverse City. My parents picked up Calvin from the home football game and took him home. Saturday morning, we got up by 7. We were up by 6 something and headed for Sheboygan Kelvin and I did. We headed to Sheboygan for 2 hockey games. Callie had a second game in Midland, and my parents took her to Midland for that game because I was going to be in Sheboygan. Sunday, Kelvin had 2 more games in Sheboygan, so we headed back to Sheboygan again. The girls were at home. Callie went to church with my mom that morning. Kelsey was sleeping, and I asked my mom to just let her sleep because I just feel it's important if they're sleeping to not wake them up when they're tired, tired like that.
Were there
it was a very busy weekend.
Yeah, were there other busy weekends like that during the marriage that sometimes the kids didn't get to a couple different assignments?
And we were pretty good at getting them to everything.
Okay. So if one of your kids didn't have their assignments done on Sunday, was that normal or abnormal for a busy weekend?
No, that's pretty common to not have it done until Sunday night.
Like even during the marriage that
yeah, that was pretty standard, that they waited until Sunday night to get it done.
Is it intentional on your part to just leave that for Mrs. Kloosterman to do?
No, never. I wouldn't want that. I just soon see them have it done. It just didn't work out this weekend.
I mean, is it every weekend that you send them back with homework to do?
No. And Jen had made a statement that Kelvin had bad grades, or he missed 2 days a week and he had bad grades, and that happened to be during my time. Yet he was sick. We got the weekly email with his grades and they were down. He got the assignments done and his grades are right back up. I mean, that's what that is. It's really nice getting weekly updates and where they're at and what's missing and what he was able to get done. But he missed 2 days of school because he was sick that week. But he got it done, and his grades are right back up to where they should be, and where Jen and I expect them to be.
And did you and Mrs. Fisherman work together to address that issue? Did you talk about it?
Yes, we talked about it. I let Jen know that I would call the school and excuse him from his absences. I asked him what needed to be made up. I'm sure Jen did the same, and he got it done.
And so that was a meaningful conversation with Mrs. Fisherman about that. You collaborated on that. You didn't just.
Yes, for the most part, all of our communication about the kids the last however months it's been has been great.
If you needed to, strike that. Has there been a time where you needed to address Calvin's academic performance other than he was sick?
No, he's normally, I mean, there are times his grades might slip, but he wants all A's, so he can handle, he takes responsibility for a bad grade, and he wants to get an A, so he does what it takes to get his grades up. So I mean, Jen and I are there, and we talked to him about it, but he's pretty self-motivated to want that A.
I mean, at 15 years old, who's responsible for doing the schoolwork?
Oh, he is.
I mean, as a parent, you can monitor that, right?
Yeah, we monitor it, but again, it's up to him. I mean, I like to remind him that his ultimate goal is to play college football at some level. And I always tell him that grades now matter then. And if he wants to do that, what he does on the football field matters, but it matters just as much in the classroom.
Have there ever been times where Calvin or any of the children have sort of gotten so busy with sports that academics shift a little bit?
Yes.
And how do you address that?
I mean, this fall, Calvin played on 2 football teams. He's playing JV and varsity. He played on this fall hockey team, and I actually didn't want the fall hockey team to happen because I thought it was just too much. I thought he needed to focus on football and school. So I think there's part of that that also has made him slip a little bit. I think he's overly tired. Um, um,
Did you talk with Mrs. Kloosterman about, does he need to sit out a game or something like that?
yeah, I communicated with her about that. And I voiced that I didn't necessarily think that the fall hockey was the best idea, but I mean, Calvin wanted to do it. So we made the joint decision to let him do it. I don't think it was the best idea. But again, when it comes, I mean, when I was in school, I really I didn't know weekly what I was doing as far as grades. So, I mean, that's getting these emails weekly. I mean, it's huge. I love it. And I look forward to seeing where the kids are at. Callie's, I mean, always A's and B's. Calvin's been A's and B's for the most part, other than when he missed a couple days of school. His grades slipped, but he got those assignments back in. His grades are right back up, and again, he's 15. It has to be his problem, and he takes ownership of it. I mean, he wants good grades. It bothers him if they're not good. So, sometimes I have to motivate him to get his homework done, and he always gets it done. But sometimes he doesn't, like we're at hockey or he wants to watch a football game, but he always gets it done. He always gets it done. But I never I would never go out of my way to send the children back with homework, because I don't want Jen to have to deal with that on a Sunday night. I'd rather her start to prepare for the following week, not make things more difficult.
Is it difficult sometimes when you have a busy week like that where, one kid's in Midland twice, another one's in Sheboygan, and
right. No, it is difficult. And I will say, like, Jen and I have been early on, I think we were very hard on each other, and it's like, it's got to be 6 o'clock. I think at times both of us were going out of our way to make things difficult for the other. But I will say the last month, like getting back at 6, like she was flexible on that. The week before that, I forget where they were, but she didn't get them to me until later on, and we've been working together great. It's going well. Our communication, our flexibility.
And when you have those super busy weekends, and an assignment doesn't get done before 6 o'clock on a Sunday, how do you address that?
Like when they come to me or when they're going?
Either way.
I mean, I want to make sure they get it done. I absolutely make sure it's done.
I mean, is there time to catch up on assignments? When
Yeah.
You have like a crazy
Yeah, there absolutely is.
I mean, none of your children are failing school.
No, they do quite well. We make sure that all permission slips are signed. Last week, I sent Kelsey off with her jogathon money, and so we make sure that she's got a daily planner that I sign, and we make sure that's all set to go, and she's got her lunch made. And
did you ever claim that parent-teacher conferences or school events were a waste of time or not worthy of your time?
I wouldn't say I said it was a waste of my time. I would say I think it's best that we divide and conquer on that. There have been ones over Zoom that I've joined, so for Jen to say I've never joined one or never been to one is false. But again, I will also, like, it's tough with 3 kids. Jen's a teacher. She wants to be very involved with her kids. If I said I'm going to the parent-teacher conference, she's going to say I'm going too. So Jen was always going to go no matter what. So sometimes it would be better if I went and did something else.
Well, did you have the kids in your case?
I had the kids. If I'm taking them to another event, I mean, we never have a day off. It's 7 days a week. During hockey season, we are at a rink pretty much. I mean, it's fallen down a little bit, but it's every night of the week. I mean, somebody has to be somewhere. It's not like Jen and I ride together to go to practice. It's a parent and a kid. We divide and each have a role, and even that now. I mean, there's been times during Jen's parenting week that she has asked me if I can bring a kid to a place. I've asked her if she can do the same, and I feel like things are going along as they should, and we're working together. I feel like we're actually on the same page now and working together to make things happen.
With respect to if she attended a parent teacher conference, I'm talking about when you guys were living together and stuff. She attended a parent teacher conference, you had the kids in your care. Did you guys talk about what was going on in the parent teacher conference?
Oh, yeah,
what was going on with the kids?
Absolutely. I mean, it was very seldom about their grades because the grades were going well. I mean, we would hear Kelvin's talk.
Correction on that, actually. We found out at the beginning of either the last video or the one before that was the lawyer's dog in the room. Dog's name's Charlie, apparently. Yeah, because the lawyer was like, I have to let my dog out of the room before he gets in trouble. So, yeah, we all thought at the beginning that was the family dog that was earned, but it wasn't. It ended up being his lawyer's dog.
He needs to be sitting in the front of the room and maybe focused a little bit or things like that, but it was never the only child that we've struggled with at times for understanding is Kelsey, and that was a lot early on when she was at Eastern, but she's just come so far, and her confidence in what she is doing has improved.
I'm glad you pointed it out.
Doing great. All three are doing quite well. And there's no doubt this separation has taken its toll on them in each different ways. But they're doing the best they can. I feel like I'm doing the best I can. I'm sure Jen feels like she's doing the best that she can, and I have no reason to think that she's not.
And did I hear you that you feel like the last month things have really started to smooth out? I mean, the separation's still fairly recent,
right?
I mean,
right,
6 months,
right?
This is Michigan,
right? But I think things have calmed down to where Jen and I are actually on the same page, and wanting what's best for the kids.
Well, at least with respect to the day-to-day. I mean, we're obviously
no, I'm talking sound.
Yeah. Mrs. Kloosterman had testified that you and she together had decided to raise your children in the Christian faith and attend church. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
And she testified that she was concerned that since the separation, you don't attend church. Is that
correct?
Do you not attend church?
I have not been. When I made that comment to her on that video, when we first separated and I had the kids, she was definitely trying to tell me what to do. She told me that she expected me to take the kids to church. And I mean, yeah, it's a dumb thing to say. I don't think church is a waste of time. I've never thought that. I grew up in my grandparents started Faith Reformed Church. My parents have been there their whole lives. I grew up there. I absolutely want my children there.
I hope so.
There has been times that we go. My parents more or less take them because with the PPO, with me being uncomfortable around Jen, I do not go because I expect her to be there. And then like this Sunday, I was gone for hockey. But no, I absolutely want my kids in church. Callie's doing a Bible study on Monday nights, and I've taken her to that, dropped her off, picked her up from that. I love that she's involved in that. We've gotten the kids, the Calvin and Callie, to go to youth group. Kelsey's even gone a couple times. Yeah, that was a dumb thing to say to Jen. I get tired of her telling me what to do. And when it was my parenting time, I didn't appreciate her telling me I needed to take the kids to church. We had gotten away from church between COVID and when we separated. There was very little church going. Yes, mainly hockey. Other times it was boating trips, Mackinac. Kids are tired. Jen and I are tired. Then all of a sudden we're separated and Jen's in church every week.
Was there a period of time recently that you guys weren't going to church?
So there was a couple of years span. We maybe went twice.
In 2 years.
In 2 years. I mean, count it. We would go Easter, Christmas, but regular church going, no, it became, but we had sports, we had events, we were tired, want to get out of the boat, we were gone on the boat. It really wasn't until we separated that all of a sudden Jen seemed to ramp back up the church going.
How do you support the children in their faith?
I make sure they say their prayers every night before they go to bed. A lot of
If that baby is born during my stream, you are legally obligated to name it April. Just saying.
the time, that's something that Jen does with them also. When they're with me, the girls call them, call her before bedtime, and she says the prayers with her. I do the exact same thing. If the kids do something like there's been times where Kelsey will say, well, I don't want to go to church
And
Sunday. And I'll say, well, how do you think God would feel about that? I try to motivate them to want to do that. The only reason I have not gone is because it makes me feel uncomfortable. I mean, one, I didn't feel safe going if Jen was going to be there.
Not my problem.
And she's going to be there. And I don't blame her for going. And I've made sure that the kids could go when we didn't have other things going. I want them in church on Sunday mornings. I want them involved in youth group. I love that Callie's in a Bible study. I love that they go to Vacation Bible School. I want them growing up in that environment. I want them to be quality individuals. Not that you can't be a quality individual if you don't go to church, but I just want them in that environment, around those people, around their friends that go to church along with them. I would never. The only reason I made that stupid comment was because I'm tired of Jen telling me what I need to do all the time.
It's the law.
She talked about during my stream. I think it was a fall program or some sort of football program where she wanted to put Calvin's favorite Bible verse in it, and you had a problem with that. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes, I do.
What was going on there? What's your perspective on that?
I just didn't think. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was Jen's idea. Calvin was okay with it. He did tell me that he.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay. I didn't want to put him in that situation where kids would make fun of him, and I thought it was best to leave it out. I didn't think it was necessary. There was other ways for him to show his Christianity or his faith, and I just didn't think it was an appropriate spot to put it in.
Had there been issues prior to that about kids teasing or something?
I mean, I know he has said stuff at school that. I mean, all three kids have. Well, the older two mainly have said they've been made fun of at times, and I remember being a kid, I was made fun of at times.
When she says the word objection,
oh, I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
And we're talking about what the kid said.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Has there been issues with bullying or teasing in school?
The kids have been picked on, but not necessarily for that. I just, if there's a situation that we can avoid, I'm going to try to avoid that situation.
Well, I'm trying to understand what your state of mind was when you took that position, or why you had a concern about putting a Bible verse. And can if I can ask, your kids go to public school, right?
They do.
Not private.
They're public school.
Why was it an issue?
I just didn't think it was necessary.
I
don't like things jammed down my throat as far as political beliefs or anything like that. And I just didn't think it was necessary to put something in that situation and put our child in a situation where maybe he's made fun of for something like that.
Was it?
I thought it was unnecessary.
Was it? Did you voice that in like an angry, aggressive, I don't want my children to be known as Christians type of thing?
No, not that at all. Jen and I discussed it. I just thought there were other ways.
Did you feel like it was a peaceful discussion? It was an open discourse, or was it angry and controlling? And
no, I think it was open. Jen told me what she thought. I told her what I thought, and we agreed that it was not necessary, and she didn't put it in there.
Have you sent your children to like a Christian-based camp over the years in the summers?
Yeah, they go to Bible school. This year was, I think, the first opportunity maybe that Kelvin wanted to go to Lakeland camp. And by no means did I not want him to go. I want him to go, but we have to make choices at some point. And with everything that's going on, I'm running out of money. And we're spending a ton of money on this divorce to take care of the kids, all their events, the houses, everything. I didn't have the money. I literally don't have the money. It had nothing to do with not wanting a kid to go to a certain event. At one point, Jen offered up, well, maybe our parents could pay for it. My parents have done a lot for me. I can't go ask them for more money. And then it just fell apart, and I never heard another word about it. If I remember correctly, I even agreed to it, and then I just never heard anything about it.
Have you ever denied the children's expression of their faith?
Never. No, never. Kelvin told me he fainted. I'm sorry. I saw something on Kelvin's hand that he had at the game in it. Fantastic. I love it.
What did it look like? Was it a Christian symbol?
Yes.
Or something?
Yeah, it was his Bible verse. I saw it when I got home that night from Midland. It was on his hand.
Not a problem.
Not a problem.
Him.
Absolutely.
If he wants to talk about his faith, or any of the children talk about their faith, do you have talks about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I never tell them not to have those talks.
Do you ever disparage your children for expressing feelings about their faith?
No, never. I actually was quite proud of him for doing that.
Do you have the capacity and disposition to provide the children with food and clothing?
Yeah. Go to the store about 4 or 5 o'clock on Sunday, so I have the things showing up when the kids arrive. I quite often even text them and say, hey, is there anything that you want special? It's usually the same stuff. Callie wants peppers, Kelsey wants go-go squeeze and that kind of stuff, onions or whatever. So I try to get those things along with the stuff that I need to make the meals and whatnot. The cereals that they want.
Do you believe that Mrs. Kloosterman has the capacity and disposition to provide the children with food and clothing?
Yes, I do.
Have finances and budgeting been an issue in your marriage?
It's been an issue since the day Jen and I started dating. When we got married, she probably had $14,000 worth of credit card debt. And there is still money from that time on her credit card. The number one thing that we fight about is money. It's an endless battle.
Have there been times that Ms. Kloosterman discussed with you negative bank balances or her having an inability to pay more than,
This is the absolute last clip for this. So I know this has gone on for a while. You all are troopers. I'm telling you. You guys are amazing. You had to hear his side, though. Even though it's taking him forever to get through it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there is cross or not. I would hope so. I can't imagine there not being, but yeah, this is the last one.
Slightly more than the minimum balance on a credit card.
She only ever pays the minimum on anything.
I mean, in the since separation, has she reached out to you about paying bills for the household?
Yes.
Is she employed full time?
She is employed full time. Even a couple weeks ago on the Wizard, she tried to convince me that the electric bill was still my responsibility because I had not released her phone yet. And when I said I would look into it, she goes, "It'd probably be cheaper just to pay it than contact your attorney."
No. So I've already thought about this one, and I hope y'all don't hate it. I've been in contact with someone to make me a couple of shirts. Okay, so the first one is gonna say be an ass, April Searing's squad. And then the other one's gonna say, are you an ass, April Searing's squad. That second one, that is a tribute to, are you a whore? So yes. Are you an ass? I really wish I could voice over that clip and have that lawyer say, are you an ass? Because yeah, it would be perfect. But yeah, so you're an ass because you're part of the April Searing squad.
You believed that the electric bill was her responsibility.
It was her responsibility, and I told her that it's her responsibility.
And she was asking you to pay it.
She asked me to pay it.
Even though finances have been tight at times, have your children ever gone without?
They've never gone without anything. No, we both make sure that they're taken care of.
Okay.
Ass, Thomas.
I do have concerns about Jen's spending moving forward, but that's on her and her family moving forward. I do hope she changes her ways, because I want the best for her. I want the best for my kids. I want my kids in a good situation, but no, she's never gonna not let them eat or have them eat or have food for them.
You don't have any concerns.
I have no concerns.
Right.
I don't know if I should be offended. 65.
Do you have the capacity and disposition to provide the children with medical care?
Absolutely.
How have you done that in the past?
Well, I mean, you're like taking the kids to their things.
Anything.
If the kids have an appointment, if I need to make an appointment, I will always make sure they get to their appointments. I feel like ever since we've been separated, there's been a little bit of hiding that from each other so that the other parent doesn't really know what's going on. There's definitely been some games being played. But I feel like the last month we're finally on the same page, moving forward together, working together to make sure that the kids are at their appointments. During the parenting time this late summer, I took the older two to get their sports physicals and their my child visits and checkups. And I've taken the kids to the orthodontist, and
I really wish that there were not copyright restrictions, because one of my favorite songs is actually called I'm an Asshole. It's done by a comedian. So yeah, look it up. It is absolutely hilarious. And if I could play it without getting a copyright strike, I completely would. but I'm going to look up who sings it right now. It's an old one. It is old, but it is hilarious. Dennis Leary. So yes, look up Dennis Leary, I'm an asshole, the uncensored version, and laugh because you're gonna.
No problem making appointments and getting them the appointments that they need. Yes, Jen has done a lot of that in the past, but I look forward to doing more of that and adjusting into that role and still working together with Jen. But I really like how things are and my time with the kids and being that taking a larger role in that world. I really do enjoy it, and I will do anything that the kids need. I'll do absolutely anything the kids need to take care of them and give them things that they need, the care that they
I
need.
didn't realize it wasn't muted.
In the past, if Mrs. Klusterman was the one who took on the role of primarily doing some of the scheduling.
I'm sorry, I thought I was muted. But yes, I watched the court live streams. I have to watch them. That's how I get content. I'm literally starting my day right away at 8:00 in the morning. Well, 7 now because I found a couple of streams that are in a different time zone. But about 7:00 in the morning, I start where I am like jumping from one courtroom to another, to another, to another, to another. As far as favorite judges, I really love Judge Shackelford. She is amazing. Absolutely love her. I really like Judge Hagen, or Mediator Hagen, Referee Hagen, whatever you want to refer to him as. I really like him. I like judges that like to make a difference in people's lives and truly take children and the impact of decisions on children into account. I also really love the 2 guys from Thurston County, Judge Meyer and Judge the other one that looks like him. You know what I mean? I love Simpson. Simpson was like my first favorite. But yeah, and I do like Judge Boyd. How do I say this? I think Judge Boyd is a little bit too TV time judge. Like, I think she sees herself as already, being a Judge Judy type. Oh, one of my favorites is Caught in Providence. He has had his own YouTube show since before court shows on YouTube were a big thing. So if you ever get a chance, watch Caught in Providence. There's just this heartwarming judge. And he does his own show. So anyways, I'm sorry to have gotten off track there, but I just, you get me talking about this stuff and I could go on forever. Yeah, I love Judge Manning. I don't really get to catch Judge Manning as often as I would like. The 5,000 windows and pretrial every other word, I don't like that. I like when she actually gets into the cases, and I don't get to catch those as often. All right, so you guys are great. I'm going back to the show before the ones who are here to actually see the clip disappear on me because I've been talking too long.
Was that because you didn't want to or didn't have the ability to do so, or
It was
just
never that
kind
I
of
didn't
like
want to. It was just kind of, we had different roles in our marriage, and that was part of her thing that she took on.
but it was never like, if the kids were with
Only all
you and
signs
one
of
of them
life.
got sick or had allergies or got hurt,
Yeah,
did you take care of
yeah,
them?
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, anytime there were appointments during the day, I took them. I mean, unless it was like a major snowstorm or something where it just didn't work and Jen needed to do it or whatever, or ask my mom or whatever, but it's never that I didn't want to. Again, Jen was home during the summers. It was just convenient for her. She was able to do the appointment after school when she's done with work. The kids are out of school. So we tried to do it when the kids weren't in school so that it just worked out. It was just what worked for us. But when I needed to take them, not every appointment can be after school. So there's been multiple times I picked Callie up from school, take her to her orthodontist, and then back to school. When Kelvin had his knee injury, I took him to the appointment to see what was going on there, and even to have him fitted for his fitted for his brace that he wore for a while. I always do and did whatever it takes and took to get the job done, and we always worked together, and it was never anything that I didn't want to do. It was just something that Jen took care of, and it was just part of what she did. Now she seems to be trying to use that against me.
Was there a recent conversation, I mean, really after the separation and filing for divorce, about getting your kids into counseling?
Yes,
Were you engaged in that conversation with Ms. Kushman?
absolutely.
Was it a dynamic back and forth conversation?
It was back and forth, but it was quite frustrating.
Why was it frustrating?
Because Jen insisted on a certain person for our youngest. That person wouldn't see all three kids. That person didn't accept insurance. I thought it was best if we got them going somewhere where they all could go. Jen took Kelsey to that person that she wanted her to see. I did find a person that would see Kelsey. Kelsey really didn't like either one of them. So it kind of went quiet for a little while, and then Jen and I started talking about it more. Jen gave me some options. I'm like, well, give me a couple days. I'll find a couple options, and I did. And the woman that I found is who we're currently talking to about making appointments. She might not have time to see all three right now, but she's got time to fit. Like, it's not something Jen and I feel like the kids need every week, but if it's once a month, if she could take one, each week or whatever. And her timing is looking like her appointments might be during the day, where the kids might have to miss school. And Jen even asked me if that would be something that I could pick them up and take them to. I did hear that Jen had communicated with this woman, and I was kind of disappointed that I wasn't part of that communication. And I've asked Jen if I can be part of that communication, and she did say that moving forward I would be, but nothing's happened yet. But it is my absolute goal to get all three in, to talk to this woman or to talk to someone, just so they have somebody to talk to. And it doesn't need to be permanent. If it's 2 months, if it's 6 months, if it is a year, I want that available to them. So no, I am all for them seeing a counselor. I see a counselor every other week. I find it beneficial. I don't know if I'll do it forever, because if the kids are going and that's going to cost us some money, I might stop to use that money to pay for what they're doing.
You notice how he calls it a counselor and not a therapist? Did anyone else catch that?
But I do find it beneficial, so I absolutely want my kids seeing a counselor.
And did you do you kind of said you did some legwork to find some names?
Yeah, I called a few different people, emailed a few different people,
and you went back and forth with, maybe you guys didn't come to an agreement right away, but you were going back and forth and engaged in the process. Is that?
Yes, absolutely. I kept Jen in the loop. Once I fired off emails to these people. I didn't tell her at that point. I waited until they responded to me and that when they responded, I communicated with Jen and said, hey, I've got a couple of possibilities here. What do you think? And I gave Jen their contact info so she could communicate with these people, and she has. And she got back to me, and she seems to like the person that I found, and we're hopefully moving ahead with her.
What about it's a little bit different, but purchasing sporting equipment or sporting gear or clothes? Ms. Kloosterman said in her testimony she primarily does that. Do you participate in doing that as well?
Yes. I think Jen was very good with her wording yesterday on that, because she does not pay for that stuff. She may have taken the kids to get the stuff, but I feel like that financial burden has been on me, and that's okay.
Has there been back and forth between the two of you about what the kids need or what type of equipment to buy?
Yes, absolutely. We always communicate with what the kids need. It was a struggle this fall. I don't have a ton of money right now, so and at the time I was paying the majority of the bills, paying the mortgage, electric, gas, all of that stuff. So things were very tight. Again, Jen had a full-time job. She was trying to get me to give her money for the stuff. And some of that stuff I didn't find necessary. I did give her money at times for other stuff, or I gave kids cash directly, or I took them to buy what they need. But in the past, it's mainly been my responsibility. I mean, when we travel hockey, it's not uncommon to spend $1,000 on a weekend. The skates Kelvin needs here in the next 2 weeks are probably $1,000. He needs 2 sticks. That's $600. It's expensive stuff. The football cleats. Jen and I did split the football cleats, but it was a battle this fall because I feel like we were both just trying to be difficult. But again, we're on the same page. I want that to continue. I don't want to not get along with Jen. I want to be the best parents we can be.
I mean, when this divorce first started and status quo orders were put in place, that was that part of the same order where Judge Hamlin, denied her request for exclusive use of the home.
Correct.
And then we heard a couple weeks later you were out of the home.
Right.
Until you entered into an agreement. When did you enter into an agreement with her about paying the bills or paying the bills differently than the status quo order?
That was
very
the same
hyperbolic.
time that she agreed to get rid of the PPO.
So early September.
Yes.
So June through August, what bills were you paying for the household?
I was paying the mortgage. I was paying electric, gas. I don't think there's anything else as far as the house. She was paying water and sewer and the garbage.
I mean, proportionally, approximately how much were you paying towards that totality of the bills?
I was probably paying over $2,000, and she may have been paying $100.
And that was for a home you were not living in.
That was for a home I was not living in, and she was still asking for money from me for kids stuff.
And she was exclusively living in that home, and the kids were there under the court order half the time.
Yes.
Kids were with you half the time.
Correct.
And you were paying.
Wait, didn't he just say she was paying water and sewer? I can guarantee you, if she was paying water and sewer, that alone with 3 kids was more than 100. Like, dude, come on, stop lying. It seriously doesn't suit you. Oh, wow, lawyer kitty getting mad.
$2,000 or more per month.
Correct. And then I was paying the groceries when the kids were with me. She was paying, so she was only buying groceries really for 2 weeks, and I was buying groceries for 2 weeks. And that's expensive.
Were you also paying the cable TV, internet?
Oh yeah, I was paying for the internet, and I paid for the phones.
And then you also paid for internet for the whole for your parents' house.
Yes, I got Spectrum and Netflix, so the kids could have internet and Netflix at where I'm staying.
I'm shifting gears to the next best interest factor, and I'm looking at the time. So I'm going to defer to the court if you want me to get through those questions, or
he slapped me too.
I think that's good.
Okay.
I do appreciate you letting me know. Just for the sake, I don't know if I said that's on the record or not, but this is for the in camera coming up 15 minutes. So I'm just trying to make sure we're all prepared for that. We'll continue on with this questioning at our next hearing. So we'll stand adjourned for today. Anything else that anyone wanted to put on the record before? Because I'm going to speak with the attorneys about some scheduling, see what sort of time we need, all that kind of stuff for the next time, so I can relay that to staff. But anything anyone wants to put on the record before I turn it all off?
No, it seems like we're going into another hearing date. So
Correct.
Wow. So we didn't even get cross. So I am keeping my eyes open because, yeah, I want more. I need more. Seriously. I'm sorry. I cannot control it. You booing me? You booing me, Thomas Mooney? Oh, you guys are the greatest. Yes, so mom's attorney now has more time to prepare, I guess. And these things, they move relatively quickly. I'm gonna keep my eye open, and hopefully I'll be able to catch it. But he took everything down already. So that's why it was so important for me to find a way to stream clip 8 for you, because I couldn't get it. I couldn't go re-download it. The corrupt file was just the corrupt file, and there was nothing I could do about it. So I appreciate everybody who came back and who stuck with me. I feel bad that, I got the big and raid and then immediately had to shut down because I couldn't fix it. But you guys are great, and I love you all so, so, so much. Yes, Lawyer Kitty was amazing. Mama Jama, these actually just happened like a week ago. I don't remember the exact dates, but they were not very, very far off. Mike streamed the clip, the intimate shave clip. And by when he streamed that, I had already been recording that hearing for 2 days at that point, as far as like downloading the clips, because it takes a while to download and edit everything and get everything ready. And so, yep, I had already been planning on running this. But you guys are welcome. For everybody that's saying thank you, I really appreciate it. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, do all of that fun YouTube stuff, you know. And then if anybody does want to support the channel, before YouTube allows me to monetize in January, I do have the Cash App in the About section and PayPal tip jar for those who use PayPal. So if you guys want to help me get the software and the equipment and everything that it takes to do this, you know, I'd appreciate it. I'm going to be here whether, you know, whether I get monetized or not, though. You know, YouTube is not going to silence me. Thanks for coming out. I love you all. Much love. Thank you so much.